Hey, it's me, Maggie J, today with a review of the Hulu movie called False Positive. This movie has been heavily advertised all over the place, so I thought it would be an interesting watch. Spoiler alert, it's not. And here's an explanation of all the ways it sucks. First off, the runtime. This could have easily been condensed down into a 20 or 30 minute short, but somehow they stretched it out to 90 minutes. Second, the trailer. The trailer makes it look interesting. Obviously, there's going to be something hinky going on with this pregnancy, but once you find out what it is, the juice is not worth the squeeze. Third, they wasted Sophia Bush, which in my book is a felony. I've got a lot more reasons why this movie sucks, but they're not numbered. I'm just here to talk. So, let's go. The premise of this movie is a married couple uses a fertility doctor to conceive a baby, and the woman starts to think everything is going to be amazing with her job and growing family, but then things get sinister. The mother is seeing weird things and thinks her doctor has done something to her, so she wants to see someone different. But her friend, Sophia Bush, Corgan, is there to comfort her through this scary time. I didn't think it would be such a weak storyline with the likes of Sophia Bush and Pierce Brosnan involved, but I guess everybody's got to work sometimes. So the movie opens up with a bloodied woman walking down the street while what sounds like the theme music to Men in Black plays. Eventually that fades away and we're taken back in time to when the woman covered in blood, Lucy, is taking a pregnancy test and is disappointed by yet another negative result. Her husband Aiden, who's a surgeon, assures her they can contact a friend of his for fertility treatments and they will get their baby. Almost immediately, they're at a doctor's office, staffed by some creepy looking nurses who call her Lucia. Lucy looks a bit scared and then tells them, no, it's Lucy, so they update their files. Several nurses give Lucy a hands-on exam and then she meets Dr. Hindle, Adrian's med school mentor and the best fertility doctor in the world. No, literally he is. They say it several times, so you won't forget it. Pierce Brosnan actually does a great job of playing this doctor though. He's got the right blend of believable professionalism, but also creepiness. Like what he says is so comforting. It makes you feel really good. But then he does things like make the nurse squirt lube on the speculum, and then he looks Lucy like right in the eye as he's smearing it all over it. What are you doing? At a second visit to the fertility clinic, Adrian gives his sample and we have to watch and listen to him watching porn in a dark room, which I don't understand why we had to watch this scene. It's kind of implied what happens next when Lucy's injected with some white stuff in the next scene. So why do we need to know that Adrian likes watching porn where women get slapped around? Is it to poison the well? I think so. Anyway, Lucy's pregnant. Because of their method of impregnation, there are twin boys in one sack and a baby girl in the other sack. So Hindle suggests a selective reduction, which is basically doing away with some of the fetuses so that the others could have a better chance of survival. This decision weighs on Lucy. She wants the girl baby. She's always wanted a girl baby. But Adrian would rather have the boys. And he is rather passive-aggressive about trying to get her to agree with him. However, Lucy does not relent, and later that night we see Adrian in a dark room typing away on a laptop, and in the morning he caves and says, okay, we can keep the girl. Which is great because they've already had a whole conversation about what they would name their daughter. Wendy, by the way. Lucy works in an advertising or marketing firm where her boss and co-workers talk a good game about supporting her throughout her pregnancy, but they do not back it up. Like, nearly every time Lucy talks to her boss, it's because he wants her to order lunch. And it's kind of implied that she's going to order lunch for everybody, even though they're supposed to be like a team where they're all kind of on the same level. But Lucy doesn't lead any projects except for just the one, and nobody else is responsible for ordering lunch. So, like, is she really part of the team or is she just like a junior associate? And her treatment at work gets worse the more pregnant she becomes. Eventually, the project she was recommended to lead gets taken away from her because her partners and co-workers worry about losing momentum. Like, they don't want to rush her or make her feel uncomfortable, but, the client comes first. And the kind of unpredictability that comes with pregnancy, we just can't manage around that. Which is probably to be expected in some industries. Like, some jobs are easier to take leave from than others. But the team is going to keep using her imagery and her ideas to make sure that the client stays happy. Yay! So that she's not completely alone, Lucy joins a mommy group of women who have also had a difficult time of conceiving on their own. She learns her doctor, Dr. Hindle, is actually the best fertility doctor in the world and has a years-long waiting list. She's a bit embarrassed to admit she didn't know that, and she waited 0 time and got pregnant on her first go-round, seemingly without all the shots because they never showed any of that. Sophia Bush is one of the mommies in the mommy group, and her name is Corgan, and I love her. Sophia Bush, not this character. This character was kind of a waste of Sophia Bush. She has exactly 6 very short scenes, and if they were gonna let her be like such a twat in the end of it, like, you should have just let her be a horrendous bitch all the way through, so we would know who we were working with. Instead, she is the sweetest, most maternal-minded woman and appears to be Lucy's only friend throughout this entire journey. And then she turns around and violates all codes of decency and womanhood. But I'm getting ahead of myself here, so let me back up. During the reduction procedure, Lucy starts hallucinating. She has apparently passed out, which Hindle says is common, and while she's asleep, she dreams of a young girl, aged 4 to 6, who's named Wendy, whose face melts away when she turns back to look at her mother. And then Lucy wakes up. Hindle and the nurse assure her she's all good and her pregnancy will continue on as usual. However, at home, Lucy has a bleeding incident that sends her right back to Hindle's office. But it's not a serious issue. She just can't stand for very long. I don't know why this scene is important or included because neither Lucy nor Adrian nor anyone else involved in this movie ever mentions to her, hey Lucy, maybe you should sit down so, you don't start bleeding out your crotch again. Unless it's to set up this next scene, which again is wholly unnecessary. You could have tacked this scene on to the end of any of the other times that Lucy was leaving the doctor's office. Anyway, while Lucy and Adrian are leaving the office after the bleeding incident, she hears a baby crying from a room called the lab, which is weird because there's not supposed to be any babies at a fertility clinic. Right? Lucy stays looking at the door for a minute, and a nurse exits the room holding one of those syringes full of that mysterious orange juice again. And then she hides it behind her like, oh, you weren't supposed to see me with that, and shuffles off into the next room. You didn't have to make a whole separate trip to the clinic to establish another plot point that you're going to completely ignore for the rest of the movie. It would have worked at any other time they were in the clinic. Anyway, there's a magazine Lucy sees on the table in the doctor's office featuring Dr. Hindle on the cover and the wonderful story of his innovative clinic. But another photo on the cover catches Lucy's attention, and so she takes the magazine home and gets all Google-licious trying to find out information about this midwife, Grace, and her less clinical approach to birthing. I'd like to note all of this has happened in the first 35 minutes of the movie. The next 30 to 40 minutes is dumb, lightly peppered with scenes of importance, and chock full of failed opportunity to expand upon something actually cool and interesting that was already included in the plot, like the name Lucia. Nurse Dawn says it at the beginning of the movie, and she literally flinches at the sound of it. Then Lucy claims she also heard it later on in the story during the baby shower, but I listened to this part very closely, and I even watched the captions. The name Lucia is never said during any of that, yet it makes her run to the bathroom and start throwing up. What is the trauma attached to this name, and why is it introduced and never explained? Waste of my time. Also, that magazine that Lucy stole, Nurse Dawn knows it's gone, and that Lucy took it. And she goes by her office later to ask for it back. Like, it's a magazine. If it's your only copy, why is it in the waiting room? And why is it so important that you go to Lucy's office to pick it up? Throughout the story, there are also many references to mommy brain. From the doctors to the nurses to the mommy group. Corgan says it like 7 times. and yet it's never part of the plot. It is never explained. It's not attached to anything. It's just something that they keep saying. Note from me to the writers of this movie, it would have been an extra sinister element if the chicks from the mommy group could have pointed out to Lucy that what she's experiencing is very similar to mommy brain, which they are all familiar with but haven't been going through because it's more of a late third trimester kind of an issue because you're just so tired from the effort of growing a child. So her experiencing it so early could have been part of the plot. You could have even tied in that mysterious orange fluid that continues being shown and is never ever explained. That could have been the cause of it because she's the only one taking it from everyone in the mommy group. So, whoever rewrites this movie in 20 years, you can go ahead and use this idea and just send me the royalty checks. So, you're welcome. The way that they have it written and displayed here, the movie kind of alludes that the orange injections are doing something. I assume it's the hallucinations and dream sequences and almost alternate reality that Lucy seems to be living in at points, but it's not shown a direct correlation, like she takes the injection and then, 2 hours later she's in a whole different world. But she does mention all this in another appointment, and Dr. Hindle gives her some Xanax to help her relax. But who knows what it actually is, seeing as everybody seems to be working together to conspire against these women that are all knocked up. So Lucy refuses to take them. Then the movie meanders around for a little bit, giving us mostly useless scenes of hallucinations and general cliche scenery and occurrences. It's not really important. Well, there's a couple important parts. At one point, Lucy says she's canceled all of her doctor's appointments with Dr. Hindle, and she demands that Adrian takes her to see the midwife, Dr. Grace. And so, they present their case to Grace, and she says, I don't normally take people on so late and along in their pregnancy, but I will for you. So, hooray. Another important scene that happens during all this craziness is Lucy wakes up one night and goes from her bedroom to Adrian's office and opens the bottom drawer. And inside there is a safe. Inside the safe, Lucy finds an envelope with the initials of the fertility clinic on it that is full of information about her, including her medical records and reports from the fertility clinic. The papers also say that she's part of some kind of study and that she's a bit mentally unstable. So she takes this folder with her, and I'm assuming the next day she meets Corgan for lunch and shows her the whole file. Corgan doesn't know what to do, but says, well, if you let me take this, I'll show my husband. He's a lawyer, and maybe he can tell you about your rights. So Lucy gives her the file, and off they go. The next time we see Corgan is when she's hosting Lucy's baby shower at her own house. Corgan's own house. We don't know how long it's been since Lucy gave her the paperwork, and it's not mentioned right away. During the party, Corgan gives her a first edition Peter Pan book because, her daughter's named Wendy and it's so cute. But it triggers some kind of reaction in Lucy, who looks like she is in distress. Then she asks Corgan why she would call her that, meaning her real name, Lucia. Like I said earlier, I didn't hear this happen, and the captions didn't even tell me that it happened, so I don't know whether audio just, took a little nap on that one, but this is a terrible, I don't know, what is it called when the plot doesn't work? This is a big one. Anyway, so after someone calls her Lucia, she runs to the bathroom to throw up, and then, like all good friends do, she starts going through Corgan's medicine cabinet, where she finds a pill bottle for Corgan from Dr. Hindle, the doctor she wasn't able to get an appointment with. So this is all new information. But here is Corgan, knocking on the door to check on her friend, and Lucy is just, no, Lucy's getting her answers today. It turns out Corgan took the information that Lucy gave her right straight back to her husband, Adrian, who was so grateful to hear from Lucy's concerned friend that he got her an appointment with his good friend, the best fertility doctor in the world. The timing of this doesn't really make sense, though. It doesn't feel like that long from when Lucy gave her the paperwork to when we're finding out that Corgan is now a patient of, what's his name? Dr. Hindle. I mean, I know when you're pregnant, things can move really quickly. So perhaps that is not the biggest flaw, but why didn't Lucy ask Corgan at any time before the shower was underway about what her husband had said about the paperwork? And why didn't Corgan think it odd that nothing drastic happened to or for Lucy, since she and Adrian both think she's in the midst of losing her whole mind? Wouldn't you expect Lucy to spend a few days in the hospital or tell you she had started a new medicine or treatment, not just act kind of normal at the baby shower? If it was a longer period of time, these questions only grow more weighty. Why is neither woman expecting an outcome if even weeks later they haven't discussed what was so important at an earlier point in time? Plus, Corgan was already like halfway along in her pregnancy. Is it recommended that you switch doctors halfway through? Or, I mean, you just always go for the best fertility doctor in the world, right? I don't know. Hold on, I'm losing the plot here. In addition to all this confusion going on, Corgan tells Lucy Adrian says he doesn't have a safe in his bottom drawer. Which, hold the fuck up. You showed us, the audience only. Lucy was in a whole nother room here, so it wasn't like she imagined this. We saw Adrian go into the bottom drawer of his desk, use the 1937 code to open it up, where we saw the manila envelope inside, and he got out the red box with the bracelet in it that he put on her with a screwdriver because Cartier says that's romantic. By the way, the 1937 is the same code that Lucy tries to use at first to get into the safe, you know, when she's maybe sleepwalking, maybe. But that one doesn't work. But she uses the number from a hallucination that she had, and that's the number that works. So, I mean, okay, Lucy could have been hallucinating the safe, but why would you go through the effort of showing us the safe and the code and the envelope inside if you were later just going to deny that the entire safe doesn't exist? So, is there a safe or isn't there a safe? Because the way they're setting this up, it's Schrodinger's safe. It's both there and not there until we can see into the drawer again for ourselves. Which, spoiler alert, we never get to see it again. So what was the point of all of this except for to make Lucy look more crazy? Who else needs convincing at this point? No time to answer that though. Lucy's having a baby. She demands to see Grace, the midwife, who helps her deliver a baby. But she says, congratulations, it's a boy. Also, Adrian, take her to the hospital because she has another baby to deliver and she's bleeding. Go now. Anyways, they rush her to the ER where Dr. Hindle delivers a second baby. The placenta follows with a tiny, shriveled, purple fetus attached to it. That's Wendy. Those remains are placed inside a big blue plastic metal waste type of bag, and we don't see it again for a little bit. Lucy is just beside herself with, I don't know, what is that feeling that you get when you've made up your mind to terminate your twin boys in favor of your girl baby? And then you spend the next 6 months expecting that outcome, only to find out that your doctor either willfully or negligently did exactly the opposite of what you wanted, and your husband doesn't even seem to care. That's Lucy. Shortly after this, Lucy and the twins go home. She's a zombie though, altered and dazed, and only interacting with the world as much as she has to. Soon, she returns to Grace's office and notices it looks a little different. Okay, I didn't mention it, but Lucy has watched a number of videos of Grace, and sometimes it looked like she herself was in the videos, which is probably part of her hallucinations and all, but Lucy went to this office twice. Once with Adrian to, make sure that she would be her midwife, and then once again when she delivered. So, was Lucy so far out of sync with reality that she imagined Grace and everything inside of her office to be more tribal and African both times? And if yes, is it because she's inherently racist? Because that's the vibe I'm getting when Grace tells Lucy she's not her mystical negress and that it's not her job to teach her to be better. I'm not sure this story is improved by a racist undertone. If the writers are just trying to show how out of it Lucy was, discovering a somewhat familiar setting is nothing like how she remembered it to be is actually a pretty good idea. This could have been portrayed in a different, non-racial way, but this is what we have. And it's not addressed or corrected throughout the remainder of the movie, so, oh well. We brought up racism, so check that box off. Anyway, from there, Lucy heads to the clinic for a showdown. She is ready to get loud and start making trouble because suddenly there's an entire waiting room full of people, even though every other time she showed up, it's been one person there, herself. But Nurse Dawn hustles her into a room to wait for Dr. Hindle. While inside, she tells Lucy she should be grateful for her 2 healthy children and to enjoy them and mother them while Adrian and Dr. Hindle do more good work for the world. Oh yeah, surprise! Adrian is joining Dr. Hindle's practice. Lucy wasn't aware of this, but nothing can really faze her at this point. She is numb to the world. When she gets a chance, she sneaks into the lab and finds the plastic surgical bag with the remains of her girl child still attached to the placenta inside. So Dr. Hindle packaged up this girl baby, took the remains in a clear plastic bag back to his office, put them inside the lab, and then left them there for however many days it was between when the twins were born and when Lucy finally made it around to, to the reckoning. Totally believable. Anyway, Hindle interrupts her reunion to explain his diabolical plan. He says, so many people just don't know what's best for them. But he's going to change all that by flooding the world with the most superior kind of DNA. His own. Way to be original. Then he fills a syringe with the orange juice, and here is where a terrible action sequence takes place that leaves Nurse Dawn all shot up with the orange juice, Dr. Hindle strapped to an exam table, and his refrigerator full of DNA all smashed on the ground. Lucy takes Wendy home, still carrying her in the blue plastic bag, while still covered in her own blood from the fight at the clinic. When she gets home, at first I thought she threw the babies out the window because she goes to the crib, picks them both up, holds them out in front of her while she's standing at in front of the open window, and they're on like the second floor or whatever. And then she just lets them go and they float up into the sky. And then Adrian comes home and the babies are still in the crib, but she doesn't. So I mean, like, I don't know what that was supposed to symbolize, but that was just fucking dumb. And then instead of throwing Adrian out the window, since it's still open, she just hands him the twins and tells him to leave. Screams at him to leave, actually. And then she sits down in a rocking chair to nurse her tiny little baby Wendy, who's been chilling out in a plastic bag for several days. And then the baby starts to suckle back. And I mean, like, what the Shit, I've got one more note on here. So we know for sure Lucy has absolutely lost her goddamn mind. And then that's it. Fade to black. Oh my god, okay. For all these reasons, and maybe a few more, I give this movie 1 out of 5 stars. And the 1 star is for Sophia Bush. Let's get this straight. The acting was mostly good, but no actor can save a poorly written plot. And this was a plot written by throwing darts at a vision board. There could have been a real scary element to this plot, not some recycled trope of a narcissistic fertility doctor. The writer could have expanded upon ideas that already existed within this story, but no. The husband being in on the treachery, that is kind of a new facet to this heavily polished stone, but even that is not well fleshed out. Does the husband have his own nefarious reasons for joining the fertility practice? He's a surgeon, so what is he going to contribute? DNA? If so, why wasn't his DNA good enough to get his wife pregnant the natural way? And if his DNA is not up to snuff, why did we have to watch him watching porn at the beginning? Just so they could include a porn scene? While I'm asking questions, what is the orange liquid? How is it made? Why was there a baby crying in the lab? Why doesn't Lucy go by her whole name, Lucia? And why does it make her flinch and throw up every time she hears it? Is there a safe in the bottom drawer of Adrian's desk? Was it Dr. Hindle that Adrian was typing away to in the dark? Is that when they hatched the plan to lie to Lucy so that they could keep the boy babies and get rid of the girl baby? Why does Dr. Hindle think he's going to change the world by simply spreading his seed? Nurture overcomes nature 99% of the time, Doc. So no matter how many children you have out there, they're going to be nothing like you unless you've got some kind of influence over their lives thereafter. This entire premise is completely nonsensical. If this is yet another jab at the patriarchy, I think it would have worked better if Hindle's motivations were as simple as more men make the world better, seen as he's already trying to make more male babies. It's right there in the plot already. But no! Most people don't know what's best for them, but my DNA does. That's so much better. It's so convoluted, even his direct explanation didn't explain shit about the long-term effects of his plan. I gotta stop, or I'll be here for another 20 minutes. So, bottom line, don't waste your time watching this movie. I've already had to sacrifice 3 hours to this beast in order to fine-tune this critique, so you should save yourself while you can. Here's where I thank you for watching all the way to this point and invite you to like and subscribe if you'd be interested in watching more of me telling you about the stuff I waste my time watching. Y'all stay safe out there.